What if I told you that your peace was never theirs to control? Not your partner's silence, not your co-worker's attitude, not even the stranger who cut you off in traffic. We spend decades thinking, if they would just stop, if they would just understand, if they would finally see us, then we could breathe. But the Stoics, they whispered something different. They said peace doesn't come when the world calms down. It comes when you do. At this age, you've lived through enough storms to know life doesn't stop being loud. People don't always play fair. And emotions? They still sneak up on us, even now. So the real question isn't, why did they do that to me? It's, how do I stop giving them that kind of power? This isn't about being perfect. It's about being steady. It's about learning to pause, to breathe, to step back, and choose how to respond, rather than react. In this video, I want to walk with you through 10 Stoic principles, not philosophy in books, but tools for real life. When emotions rise, and you just want to stay calm, because maybe, just maybe, you're not here to win every battle. You're here to protect your peace. 1. Your peace is not in their hands. There comes a point in life when you stop expecting people to always understand you, not because you've given up, but because you've grown tired of handing your peace to things outside your control. You start to see it. How often we say, "They upset me," when in truth, we were already carrying something fragile inside. It's not their tone, not their timing, not even their mistake. It's the way their words grazed an old wound, one you may have forgotten was still there. You think, they made me angry. But what if they just revealed the part of you that still hurts? Somewhere deep down, you wanted more kindness, more effort, more presence. And when it didn't come, again, your chest tightened. Not just from this moment, but from the echo of so many before. And I know, by this stage in life, you've likely built strength the hard way. You've endured, you've adapted. But have you found stillness? Have you realized that real peace isn't given, it's claimed? There's a quiet shift that happens when you stop needing everyone to act right, just so you can feel okay. You stop saying, "They should have known," and start whispering, "I can choose how this lives inside me." That's not resignation, that's power. As Epictetus wrote, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. So when someone crosses a line, and your instinct is to tighten, to strike, to shut down, pause. That moment is yours. That choice is yours. And peace, that was never theirs to give or take. 2. Pause before you react. Sometimes it's not what they said. It's how fast you responded before you even realized what you were really feeling. You know that moment. The text you almost sent, the sharp tone you almost used, the decision you made, with a clenched jaw. Then later, in the quiet, you wonder, was I reacting to them, or something in me? As we get older, we realize it's not always about having the right comeback. Sometimes the real strength is in the pause. That small space between what happens and what we do next is everything. It's the breath before the fire, the blink before the word. The only chance we get to not hand over the steering wheel to emotion. You don't need to explain yourself right away. You don't have to defend your every feeling. And you definitely don't have to meet every sharp edge with another. What if, the next time something stung, you asked yourself, What did I expect that didn't happen? What belief in me just got rattled? You might find it's not about them at all. It's about a need for respect, a longing to feel heard, a quiet ache that someone just stepped on without even knowing. The Stoic Epictetus once said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." And mastery doesn't mean suppressing how you feel. It means slowing it down long enough to understand it before you give it a voice. So next time, pause. Take 5 slow breaths. Let the moment settle before you do. You don't owe anyone an instant reaction, but you do owe yourself the chance to respond with clarity instead of regret. Because sometimes the strongest move isn't what you say, it's what you don't. 3. Anger is a mirror. Anger has a way of showing up uninvited. You're fine one moment. Then a comment slips in, a tone, a glance, a missed gesture, and suddenly, something inside stirs. But what if anger isn't there to protect you? What if it's there to teach you? It rarely comes from nowhere. It comes from a place where something still hurts, where a part of you expected more and didn't get it. Maybe you expected kindness or effort, or just someone to care enough to notice. And when that doesn't happen, you don't just react to them. You react to every other time that expectation was left unmet. That's the thing about anger. It stacks, layer by layer, moment by moment, until one ordinary misstep from someone else hits something extraordinary in you. You might say, they crossed a line, but quietly underneath that, there's a whisper. I didn't even know this line was still here. Carl Jung once said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." And in that light, anger becomes less of a weapon and more of a mirror. It shows us where we're still holding on, where we need healing, where we're still hoping someone else will fix what only we can tend to. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury. Not colder, not louder, just wiser." So the next time anger rises, ask yourself, what story am I telling here? What did I expect? And why? Because when anger becomes awareness, it no longer controls you, it guides you. And that shift, that quiet turning inward, is where self-mastery begins. 4th, the power of silence. There's a kind of silence that isn't empty. It's full of strength. Not everyone understands that. We live in a world that rewards the fastest voice, the sharpest reply, the loudest reaction. But you know better. Because you've seen what happens when words come too fast, when heat takes the wheel. You've said things you wish you hadn't. We all have. Moments where you spoke from the wound, not the wisdom. And then there's that other feeling, the one that comes when you chose not to speak, not because you were afraid, but because you were clear. This isn't worth my peace. That's not weakness. That's mastery. Seneca once said, "Anger, if not restrained, is frequently more hurtful to us than the injury that provokes it." There's a truth in that, one that hits a little harder with age. Because by now, you've seen how some fires don't need fuel. They burn out faster when left alone. Silence isn't about bottling things up. It's about choosing the right moment, the right tone, the right battle, and sometimes choosing none at all. You don't need to clap back. You don't need the last word. You don't even need them to understand. What you need is to walk away with your center intact, with your dignity unshaken, with your clarity untouched. There's a kind of silence that doesn't scream, but speaks volumes. So next time someone tries to pull you into chaos, let them talk, let them twist, let them wait. Your stillness will say more than your words ever could, because silence, when chosen with intention, isn't surrender. It's self-respect in motion. 5. Gamify your calm. It sounds strange, doesn't it? The idea of turning your calm into a game. But what if it works? What if it's the very shift your mind needs? Not to treat peace as pressure, but as something playful. We spend so much of our lives reacting. Quick tempers, sharp words, tension in our chest before we even realize it's there. But what if, instead of just trying to be better, you tracked your calm like a quiet scoreboard? Someone cuts you off in traffic. You exhale. 1 point. Someone snaps at you for no reason. You hold steady. Another point. Your spouse forgets something important. Again, you choose grace over fire. 3 points. And no, this isn't about pretending things don't matter. It's about noticing how often you can stay grounded and giving yourself credit for it. Because at this stage in life, you don't need more guilt. You need more awareness, more lightness, more moments where you say, "Look at that. I handled it differently this time." Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." And sometimes, that strength grows fastest when it doesn't feel like a chore. When it feels like a quiet challenge you take on for you. Try it. Keep a small note. Tally the moments you stayed centered. Smile when you catch yourself pausing instead of snapping. Celebrate each breath you chose instead of a reaction you'd regret. Because emotional mastery doesn't come from big, dramatic moments. It comes from tiny choices, repeated daily. And maybe, when calm becomes your game, peace becomes your practice. 6. Not everything deserves a reaction. By now, you've learned this the hard way. Some things, no matter how loud they feel in the moment, simply aren't worth your energy. Not every rude comment, not every cold glance, not every misunderstanding dressed up as drama. You've been invited to arguments you didn't ask for, pulled into tension that wasn't yours to carry, and still, you walked away wondering, why do I feel so drained? Because reacting to everything costs something. Your peace, your time, your clarity. The truth is, you don't have to show up to every battle you're invited to. Silence isn't you giving in, it's you holding ground. There's a kind of wisdom that doesn't rush to respond. It observes, it breathes, it lets the noise pass, while you stay still. And no, that doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care too much about your energy, your values, your day, to hand it over that easily. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus said it simply, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." In other words, you might not always get to explain your silence. People may misunderstand it, but your job isn't to control their perception, it's to protect your presence. So the next time the conversation turns to gossip, or someone tries to bait you with blame, or a situation begs for your outrage, ask yourself, does this deserve me? Not my anger, not my explanation, not even my attention. And if the answer is no, walk away, not as an escape, but as a quiet declaration that your peace is not up for negotiation. 7. The Power of Reframing. It wasn't what they said. It was how you heard it. It wasn't the moment itself. It was the meaning you gave it. And sometimes, that meaning cuts deeper than the moment ever could. We carry these internal scripts, stories we've picked up over years about how people should treat us, what respect should look like, how things should go. But life doesn't always read our script. And when it doesn't, we suffer. Not just from what happened, but from the version of the story we're telling ourselves about it. You know the one. I'm always overlooked. They never listen. This always happens to me. But what if that's not the truth? Just a habit of interpretation? Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts," which means the way you frame a moment shapes how deeply it colors you. You could take the late reply as rejection, or assume they were overwhelmed. You could see the criticism as an attack, or as someone clumsily trying to connect. You could let that awkward silence mean they don't care, or maybe they're just tired too. Reframing isn't denial. It's choosing to see more than one version of the moment, and picking the one that brings you clarity, not collapse. It doesn't make the situation disappear, but it makes you bigger than it. And that's freedom. So next time your mind rushes in with its old, familiar story, pause. Ask, what else could this mean? What would I see here if I wasn't so used to being hurt? Because most of the time, it's not the event that breaks us. It's the version of the event we never questioned. 8. Gratitude as emotional reset. It's hard to be grateful when your chest is tight, when anger is rising, when someone's words left a sting, when the day has been more friction than flow. And yet, gratitude holds a strange kind of power. Not the loud kind, not the kind that demands applause, but the quiet kind that shifts everything from the inside out. Because here's the truth. You can't be genuinely angry and genuinely grateful in the same breath. One contracts, the other expands. One says, "This isn't fair." The other whispers, "But I still have something." And sometimes, that whisper is all you need to soften the sharp edge of a moment. Not because the problem disappears, but because you do something different. You root yourself in what's still working, still right, still yours. Try it. The next time frustration grabs you by the throat, pause, breathe, and name 3 things you're grateful for. Not grand things, not perfect things, just real things. Maybe it's the roof over your head, the warmth of your coffee, the fact that you noticed you were triggered instead of letting it run your day. Marcus Aurelius, even as emperor, once wrote, "Do not hanker after what you do not have. Instead, think of the blessings you do have and how much you would miss them if they were not there." That's not about pretending everything's okay. It's about shifting the weight from lack to presence, from what's wrong to what's still right. Gratitude doesn't fix the mess, but it clears a path through it. It gives your nervous system room to breathe, and sometimes that's all you really need, to choose calm when chaos knocks. 9. Let go of what you can't control. There's a quiet exhaustion that comes from trying to manage what was never yours to hold. You feel it when you replay someone's cold words in your head, when you rewrite the conversation you wish had gone differently, when you stay up wondering why they didn't choose better, love better, be better. And all it does is leave you tired, disconnected, and still without the answer. But maybe the answer isn't in fixing them. Maybe it's in freeing yourself, Epictetus said it best. Some things are up to us and some are not. Simple words, but they hold an entire life's worth of clarity. You can't control how someone shows up. Not their mood, not their timing, not their growth, not even their apology. But you can choose how you show up. You can decide where your energy goes, where your attention stays, and what part of the story you keep feeding. And that shift from control to clarity changes everything. You no longer try to rescue people from their own lessons. You no longer chase closure from those who don't know how to give it. You stop editing yourself to earn someone else's acceptance. Instead, you come back to you, your breath, your values, your boundaries. You start asking, what is mine to carry? And more importantly, what's not? It's not cold. It's not distant. It's clear. And clarity at this stage in life is worth more than control ever was. Because peace doesn't come when everyone behaves the way you want. It comes when you stop needing them to. 10. Lead with composure, not ego. Most arguments don't start with facts. They start with ego. That quiet voice inside that says, I need to be right. I need to win. I need to prove something. And just like that, a simple disagreement becomes a battlefield. Not about clarity, but control. You know that feeling. Your voice gets louder. Your chest tightens. You're no longer listening. You're waiting to respond. But here's the thing. The one who stays calm is the one who leads the room. Not by force, not by dominance, but by presence. Socrates believed that wisdom starts with the ability to ask better questions, not to trap someone, but to understand them. So instead of, how could you say that? What if you asked, what made you feel that way? Instead of, what's your problem? What if you said, help me understand where you're coming from? The goal shifts. From winning to connecting, from reacting to guiding. And no, it's not always easy, especially when your pride wants to speak louder than your patience. But composure, that quiet steadiness, has a ripple effect. It lowers tension, it changes tone, it invites honesty. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You always own the option of having no opinion." There is never a need to get worked up or to trouble your soul about things you can't control. And that includes how others see you, how quickly they try to pull you into their storm. You don't have to meet fire with fire. You don't have to raise your voice to be heard. Sometimes the most powerful person in the room is the one who speaks the softest, or doesn't speak at all. Because they're not trying to control the moment, they're grounded enough to lead it. Peace doesn't come from quieter days or more agreeable people. It comes from the small, quiet choices we make, to respond instead of react, to pause instead of press, to rewrite the story we've been living in for far too long. Because the truth is, your calm has never belonged to anyone else. Not the person who misunderstood you, not the situation that spiraled, not the past that still echoes. It belongs to you. And every time you choose stillness over noise, understanding over ego, awareness over assumption, you're reclaiming it piece by piece. If something in this journey spoke to where you are right now, or where you've been, or where you quietly want to go, I'd love to walk that path with you. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Not for algorithms, not for numbers, but because this space was made for moments like these, for people like you, reflective, resilient, still learning. And if you're ready, there's another video waiting for you now, a next step on this journey inward. Until then, stay grounded, stay growing, And when the world gets loud, return to your center. You were never meant to be shaken by everything. You were meant to lead yourself from within.